This is the Creative Market Free Goods Roundup week of August 3rd, 2015. There are 6 different free goods this week, but they are free this week only. So if you see something like in this video, just check out the description of this video where I will place links to each one of these 6 different free items. So first up here is Skulls Volume 1. So as the name of the pack might suggest, this is a collection of different vector skulls and is provided in EPS format and opened up inside Illustrator right now. And as you can tell, these skulls are some different stylistic options to pick from here, from very illustrated versions like this one that's selected right here, to much more almost cartoony versions like this one right here. So depending on the style that you're trying to achieve here, there are some different skull options for you to pick from. So I'll just quickly scroll through everything that's included in this set. There's a skull right here in a bandana. So there is an interesting amount of variety, even though all the content is skulls. The stylistic choices throughout these different skulls can be quite a bit different depending on which one you use. And it is interesting that they all are human skulls, except for this guy right here, which I actually have no idea what kind of animal that would have came from. So that's kind of a different outlier in terms of everything that's included here, but it is there if you want to use it. But this one's a super straightforward pack. If you're on the hunt for some vector skulls, then this is something worth checking out. And if you think you'll have use for these, just be sure to grab them this week. Next up is Portochrome Lightroom Preset Bundle. This is a collection of a whole bunch of different presets for Adobe Lightroom, so I have that opened up right now, and it does include instructions of how to load these presets. I'm not a big photographer myself, so I don't tend to use Lightroom very much at all, but it was easy enough for me to understand and go in there, so just be sure to check out the included instructions before you start. So I have the folder opened up here under presets, and to get into the presets, if you're not familiar, you just have to go into the develop mode after you follow the instructions in the download for this set, and then make sure you open up the Portochrome folder, and inside there's a whole bunch of different potential actions for you to click. So I'm just going to start clicking these, and keep an eye on the original photo right here. So this is what it started out looking like, and as I hit these different effects, it starts to apply these very quickly, and this does include a nice selection of different effects to apply to your work. So I'll just keep on going down the list here of everything so you can see everything inside. And it is worth noting that this is a very vintage inspired set in my opinion. A lot of very harsh kind of dark effects like this, but then they have some like this one right here, which is a lot more faded. So as I keep on going down here, you can kind of see everything that you can come to expect through all these. Some of these differences are very, very subtle. So using this particular photo, it might be a little bit hard to tell, but as you're using different photos with different types of contrast and colors, you'll see those differences more. And this one right here is obviously a very stark difference from some of the previous ones. And here's the next one right here, and now there's some overexposed versions that I'm going to go down very quickly. So whether you're looking for faded or overexposed, or just in general more vintage inspired or harshly shot effects for your photos, and this might be a pretty cool pack to pick up for that reason. Like I said before, I'm not a huge photographer myself, so I don't tend to go into Lightroom all that much, but it does seem like there's a pretty nice selection of different effects here to pick from that should give you some really good starting points to add into your photos. And of course you can use a preset like this one right here and then go into the little side section here and then play around with things like exposure and contrast. I'm doing something pretty terrible with this photo right now, but oh well. So be sure to play around with these settings on the side. Once you get a nice baseline effect that you think you want to apply to your photo, it'll just make this set a whole lot more expandable for you in the future. But I'm almost to the end here, so there's 2 left. There's this one right here, and then there's the one right here that's called Dark Shadows, which really just pumps up the shadows as you would expect. So that's it for this set of presets. If you're a big Lightroom user and you think these might be useful for some of your photos in the future, just be sure to grab this one this week. Next up is 10 Vintage Ribbons. This file is provided in both Illustrator as well as EPS file formats, and I have it opened up inside Adobe Illustrator here to show it. So if you look at this file, it includes both light as well as dark versions of these different elements. So if I drag these off right here, you can kind of get a better idea of what I'm talking about there. And there's quite a few different elements here to pick from, and they all have a very hand-drawn style. So if I zoom in very closely on these individual elements right here, you can get a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. They do a really nice job of conveying that handmade feel while still being a nice and sharp vector file. So these are infinitely scalable, which is a really cool thing to have if you're working on any larger projects. But a very straightforward pack here with 10 separate banners to pick from. And if you want to add in some custom type, you can of course do that as well. Hand draw it, scan it in. That might be a really cool way to do it. Or you can try to find a font on Creative Market or a free site like Font Squirrel that might fit the bill really well. But that's it for this pack. If you liked what you saw, be sure to pick it up this week. Next up is Bonerica Typeface. This font is provided in true type font format, and I have it opened up inside Adobe Illustrator here to show it. And it does include both lowercase as well as uppercase versions of the letters, but as you can see, they all appear to be capital letters. The only main difference here is that the lowercase versions are smaller and the uppercase versions are bigger. And it's also worth noting too that the actual letters, they're more than just a different size. They are actually individually re-rendered versions of each of these letters. So if you were to overlay this A from the lowercase version on the A of the uppercase version, you would tell there are subtle differences between the two. So it's nice to see that they didn't just totally reuse assets. They did make totally custom ones for all these different capital versions. I'll just zoom in on the lowercase versions quickly so you can get a good idea of what these look like up close. There's a handmade feel that also has a very vintage vibe to them. So if that's something you're looking for, then this font is definitely worth checking out. It does a pretty good job of pulling that off. And here are the uppercase versions. If I go in a little bit closer here, you can get a better idea of some of the details up close. It's a pretty loose style overall, but it does a nice job of conveying that well-worn vintage look that a lot of people are always trying to go for with their designs. So it also includes all the numbers 1 through 0, as well as a decent selection of special characters. If I highlight over this and go to type and then glyphs near the top here, you can tell everything that's included. It includes most different punctuations. So if you're using an English-based language, you should be pretty good with this font. I'll just close this right now. And I typed up Free Goods Roundup so you can see how this looks typed up into an actual sentence. And here you can see the variance between the uppercase like the F as well as the lowercase letters like the R. So that's the difference that happens when you type in uppercase versus lowercase. And I think the stock kerning is really solid. It's a little bit loose, but since this is a very handmade appearing font, that's probably a good thing. So overall, I think this font is pretty solid. So if you like this font, you think you might have some use for it, just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. Next up is 50 dot brushes for Adobe Illustrator. This is a set of 50 different really cool brushes for Adobe Illustrator, so you are going to need Adobe Illustrator to use these. I don't think they'll work in other vector programs. And to actually use these, just open up the file that's included and then go to Window and then Brushes. And once you open that up, you'll see all the different brushes that are included in this set. There's a ton of them, so I probably won't cover absolutely everything, but I will go over at least the basic idea of what you can expect with this pack. So I'm going to hit B on my keyboard to bring up the brush and then just draw a little squiggly line right here. And then I'm going to select that by hitting V and then just hovering over it so it's the currently selected thing. And I'm going to start clicking these different brush options so you can get a good idea of what these look like as you apply things to them. So this is a pretty unique set in terms of the actual way the brushes look. They're not like a standard paintbrush or something like that. They're all very image based. And of course you can highlight over this and then using the stroke window, which is under window and then stroke kind of near the bottom here, you can increase the weight of this to be larger if you want these to appear a little bit differently. So keep that in mind too if you want them to look a little bit different or be a little bit more pronounced than they actually are. On a smaller stroke, just increase that stroke a bit and the effects will become a little bit more pronounced. But as I scroll down here, you can tell there's a pretty nice variety of different visual elements to pick from here. They're really great for things like borders or even shading, I think. I think you could really experiment with some of these different brushes here to get some cool effects. Like when I look at this particular set of shapes right here, it kind of reminds me of like the inside of a snake or something like that, like a snake skin. So you could use this on an illustration of a snake or whatever the case may be, whatever it reminds you of. So this is a very flexible set when it comes to that. I think using your imagination will get you a pretty long way when it comes to getting some pretty cool uses out of this set. But I'm not going to go over absolutely all these different brushes. I think if you like what you see thus far, you should probably pick this one up and test them all out on your own. So if you think these brushes are pretty cool, because I certainly do, just be sure to grab this pack this week while it's still free. And last up is Scribo Personal Blog Resume. So this is a WordPress blogging theme, and it is fully responsive, so it should look good no matter what kind of device you are looking at it on, whether it's mobile, computer, whatever the case may be. And it's a very straightforward blogging theme, so I'll just zoom down the bottom here so you can see the general post structure. As you can tell, it's all about the posts themselves, so if you really want to focus on your content, then this is a pretty good theme to at least have as a starting point. And it does include things like audio posts as well as video posts. There's things like scrolling banners, so there's quite a few different features included here that are really nice to have when you're looking for a theme. And the menu, if you click on that, it just brings up to the right side here, so it's kind of an interesting menu. Where up at the top here, there's a little description, a navigation, as well as contact me. They describe this as a personal resume blogging theme, so that's kind of an interesting idea. Maybe you could show off all your different work, or if you're a content writer, you could show all that stuff off there. And then in this side menu here, there's things like contact me, as well as a spot for your skills, a Flickr feed, popular posts, and then a large tag cloud. So I'll just keep on going down here and click on one of these posts really quickly for video post, just so you can see how this looks when you actually get in here. So there's room for the content up at the top here, plenty of room for description, as well as categories, likes, the date, a little bio for the person who wrote it, and then a comment section below. I'm just going to go back to the main page here and try to find where there was a slider gallery, which is right here. So if I click on that, it'll load up this slider gallery right here that works very nicely. And as you can tell, as I go between here, it does automatically adjust the content below it to fit properly. So that's a pretty cool feature as well. And very quickly, I'll just go to that again so you can see that this slider also works on this main page. So you don't have to actually click on that to go in there and see that. But this is a pretty straightforward theme. I think I covered most of it so far. So if you like what you see right here and you're looking for a nice and clean blogging theme, then this might be a really good starting point for you to pick and use. Just be sure to grab it this week while it's still free. So that's it for this week's free goods, and do remember they are free this week only, so be sure to check out the description of this video where you'll find links to download all these free items. And as always, if you liked this video, please like and favorite, and if you want to see this video every week, please subscribe. This video is released every Monday to let you know it's free this week on Creative Market. Thank you for watching.